Yeah, sexual pervert, deviant, weirdo, alien chaser, like all that stuff, man. Well, it's so funny when you see people's like perception of, because all it is just their own personal shit that they haven't dealt with, and they're projecting it onto you. Yeah. And so, I mean, my office where I do the healing is in an old church building, and so they hear the word church, they hear the word sex, and all of a sudden it's a cult, and you know, I'm this sex cult, and I'm grooming children and all this stuff. And I tell you what, man, it doesn't bother me because I know who I am and I know what I do, and so do my people that I work with. But at one point, over a couple of months ago, there was one guy that really was just like trying to really like egg me on, and so he posted it in a bunch of like the 530 groups and stuff like that, and I was grateful that he was doing it because I was getting interest. Like, that. What's a boob reader? What's a sexual healing? So I was getting new clients and stuff like that. And he decided to take it to another level. Right? So I did it, and I thought I was dying. I was like, oh my God. And I wasn't married at the time. I was like, oh my fiance is going to, because she was there. She's going to witness my death. Like, I literally am like, oh fuck, I think I'm going to die here. And because like my arms were going numb.
So what's going on in Grass Valley? What are you doing over there tonight?
Well,
doing some healing over there?
I met with a couple.
Okay.
I actually met with the wife only, and was the drinks. Well, I had to go up there running errand anyway, and so she got all dolled up. She's like, "Hey, you want to meet?" Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, let's go meet. So we met, had some drinks, and then she's like, "My husband's getting home. Do you want to go meet him?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's sure. I got a couple of minutes before I can do that." She's like, "I heard you do boob readings. Will you give me a boob reading?" I was like, "Yeah, bring them out, girl." And she actually just texted me. She just said, I said, it was nice meeting you and look forward to playing with you in the future. She's like, "You as well, and thank you for the boob reading. That is absolutely mind-blowing." And so I was like, "Yeah, it was my pleasure, I'm like, I couldn't complain with that."
So how long now have you officially been a sexual healer? I don't know, what do you call yourself?
By the way?
Oh yeah, it's recording.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So yeah, I have a sexual healing practice. So I don't necessarily call myself a sexual healer because the healing comes from within the person that I'm working with. Like, they are self-healing, and what happens is I just give them permission through various experiences. And so sometimes people just need to basically let someone show them what their body is capable of, to just release control, and then the body does what it does naturally, and that's the heal. So sexual healing is the term that I use, but I don't consider myself a healer, if you will. I have healing energy that I bring, and they match that frequency, but I don't do anything to somebody, like, heal me, Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I hear. That's what shamans do, right? It's not that they heal you, but they try to remind you what you're capable of.
Exactly, yeah, who you already were.
The powers that you have within, things that we don't know what we are. I mean, I know it's been, 2 years or something since we last talked.
Yeah.
I know I seen you and Sarah doing those singing bowls.
Yeah.
The crystals, correct?
Yeah.
And you're also administrating Bufo, Campbell, or I don't know.
It's Bufo.
Bufo.
Yeah, so Bufo is 5-MeO-DMT, and it's toad poison, basically, toad medicine. And fuck, dude, like, that is next level shit.
How many times have you done it now?
Over 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
In 3 years or how?
Oh no, since hasn't even been a year yet. It was last May.
Jesus.
And I died.
Well, you know, it's funny that you're telling me that because I don't know if you've heard of QHHT, quantum hypno
Yeah.
therapy. Or, I don't know. Do you know who Dolores Cannon is?
I do. Yes.
So there's a gal. I think her name is Sarah. Her name is just.
Yeah.
But she knows the whole way to do it, and she posts all her therapies on YouTube.
Beautiful, man. Please send that my way.
Okay, yeah. And she did this guy named Matias Stefano, and he's from Argentina, and since he was a little kid, he remembers his past lives, and everyone thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, his stories, I think I heard him like in 2021, and it was like something straight out of The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. Just the way it starts off slow and then
It builds up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love that, like so much is coming out now.
Dude, so we just found this guy. His name is Daryl Ackle, something like that, or Akna. I don't know what his last name is.
Bashar, right?
Bashar. We've been geeking out on this stuff. My wife, she's like with Dr. Greer. She's like, we're gonna go contact some aliens. She's like, I think I actually am an extraterrestrial, like hybrid or some shit. And so we're going out in the desert. We're in the middle of the night. Like we went to Death Valley this past weekend, and we were out there, and she's just like trying to make contact and shit. She's like, I'm gonna do this the CE5 contact that Dr. Greer talks about, and then we read, like we're literally like watching Bashar as we're driving out there and just listening to all his stuff. And she has this pendant that she bought. I love her. She's like such a geek. She like is like a UFO hunter and like past life diver, and just I love it, man.
Yeah. So no, it sounds like you guys are really diving into your spirituality. So now that you're completely going into that aspect of your life, are you disconnecting from other people that you knew? Because you know this, to a lot of people this sounds like craziness, wackos, right?
Yeah, sexual pervert, deviant, weirdo, alien chaser, like all that stuff.
And it doesn't bug you, like, because you know you're always gonna get, it doesn't matter what you do, you sell food, you have a someone's gonna shit on you regardless.
So at one point, it's so funny when you see people's like perception of, because all it is just their own personal shit that they haven't dealt with, and they're projecting it onto you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, my office where I do the healing is in an old church building, and so they hear the word church, they hear the word sex, and all of a sudden it's a cult, and you know, I'm this sex cult, and I'm grooming children and all this stuff. And I tell you what, man, it doesn't bother me because I know who I am and I know what I do, and so do my people that I work with. But at one point over a couple of months ago, there was one guy that really was just like trying to really like egg me on, and so he posted it in a bunch of like the 530 groups and stuff like that, and I was grateful that he was doing it because I was getting interest. Like, what's a boob reader? What's this sexual healing? So I was getting new clients and stuff like that, and he decided to take it to another level. He throws like, "Hello, I'm here, I can talk," but it didn't do me any service. Like, did not do me any justice at all, because as soon as I did that, like, oh, it must be true. You see, now he's trying to hide it, and like he went like even more crazy. And so I was like, you know what? I learned my lesson. One, that I would defend myself if needed to, but two, people are just going to take whatever you do, like you said, no matter what, and use it as fuel to run with the narrative that they already have about me. And so that was the case. And they're just like, you see, I told you, he posted the letter and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, so I learned. Next thing came across, people were posting me on, have you dated this man too? And they're like, this guy's pretending to be a sexual healer. I'm like, oh, he's so disgusting, red flags everywhere. Sure enough, I remained silent in that group. And I got people like, I'm actually kind of curious, like, what are my breasts are saying? Like, I noticed that one is larger than the other, and I don't know why. Like, what's it's actually, like, what, like, is there something to this, or this is a gimmick for you to get tits, you know? And I find that the way, like, for me, like, just to remain cool, because it's not true, that is the best thing. But I didn't know that until I went through that process and learned it. Because for the second there, I was like, I'm going to defend the whole world and do this. And I just realized that it wasn't the best use of my resources, but at least I knew for myself that if I needed to go there, I could do it.
Yeah. No, and I remember from like the first time I met you, I just liked how you would transmute energy. Like any kind of negative things, you'd use it like kind of against people. And I was like just kind of observing you, and because I was in a odd state there, just working crazy hours, helping run a family business, and sometimes you let negativity affect you too much.
Yeah, man.
And I didn't understand frequencies or energies. I didn't know anything. I didn't believe in it. I mean, I was like,
I've always thought of you as like a really high frequency kind of guy, like very positive vibes. I've always got that from you.
But I've had my challenge. Everything is
yeah.
you have your
Cycles.
peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And I think like when I started with my folks, I was up and then I came down. And I know that it's important who you have around you, right? And if people bring you up, it helps. And I feel like that's what I have now, where I work now. I have
that support is
well, just people that talk about star family, or I heard something above my house, right?
Right, yeah.
And I just love hearing that. And we, of course, we don't talk about it with anyone, but there's certain people, and you can talk about, and like you were saying about your wife or your fiance. I don't know. You guys are married,
right? Yeah.
And
a lot has happened since we met last night, but we're definitely married.
Like I had my Akashic record read, and then I'm gonna have a hypnotherapist on Sunday.
No way. So my wife went to a meeting, a women's group in Grass Valley this past on Tuesday, and this woman, she does Akasha readings, and she's like, I've never had mine read before. Mm-hmm. So she's like, have you ever had yours? I'm like, no, I know what they are, but no one's ever read mine. And so she's like, we should do this. But I'm interested to see who did yours. I mean,
well, I want to hear yours first.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't told nobody about this just because, I gotta be real careful because where I work, we sign something that can't disclose what we do, and the company we work with. And I've had some close calls because, once you take psychedelics, it changes your life,
Dude, 100%.
And a lot of times it takes a lot of time to be able to understand what it was, or integration, right?
Yep.
But it's always been calling me, right? And a lot of people that have no idea about it think they're losing their mind, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I had I was sharing too much, and then I kind of got pulled into HR, are you doing this? And I was like, yeah, look, I'm doing lion's mane and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I have a brother-in-law who runs
I was going to say, I was in the Bay Area. It's decriminalized there. I didn't do it in areas. I mean, it's just like, skirting around the reality of it all.
All that is kind of over with, right? We're in the age of Aquarius, and if people don't know,
these boundaries are just crashing down.
Yeah, and a new system's coming in, and people aren't afraid no more to talk about what we're talking about, right? And I don't care no more. I just go, you know what? This is all. There's only certain of us.
Yeah.
We're meant for this, and I've been told you're the boots on the ground. You're here to do this kind of work. And at first, I didn't understand it. But now I get it about just being a positive impact with anyone you come across. The smallest smile, hi, how are you? Just the simplest things can cause a huge impact on people.
Can I share something about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I did Bufo for the very first time, so here's the craziest thing, right? So I did it, and I thought I was dying. I was like, oh my God. And I wasn't married at the time. I was like, oh, my fiance is going to, because she was there, she's going to witness my death. Like, I literally am like, oh fuck, I think I'm going to die here. And because my arms were going numb, you have this dualistic aspect where your ego is along for the journey. With Bufo, you shoot right past it and your ego dies if you allow it to. And so when I come back online, I was like, oh shit, and your ego's like, what the fuck you doing? Oh my God, and I'm crying, like, oh, I'm so sorry. However, what I experienced, and I've experienced this multiple times since then, is you go through this near-death experience. And for me, this near-death experience is like your whole life will flash in front of your eyes, and you'll get to see like what you didn't do. And that's what happened to me. And my book was the one thing, like, so I was like, I told myself, I surrendered. I'm like, fuck, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. And I surrendered. And the one thing that popped up was like, you never finished your book. So all this stuff that I discovered with healing women through orgasm release, I was taking with me to my grave. And that's what motivated me to finish my book finally. However, there's a thing I wanted to share with you, because you're talking about like being nice to people. I had this moment, and I guess this is what happens to a lot of people when they go through near-death experiences, is they they see what they've done to other people. So we talk about karma, and then what happens is all of that energy that they put in towards hurting somebody, stealing something, robbing, whatever they did, they see that, and then they feel it as if it was done to them. So I saw everything that I did to hurt somebody be turned back on me as if I was hurting myself. I'm like, holy shit, I'm a fucking mirror, and everything is just a projection of myself, and I did it to myself. And I was just crying, I was bawling. And then I told my wife about this experience, because it happened again the second time, like months later. I was like, I had another near-death experience. And she's like, you didn't die. You're not dying. Your heart's not stopping. I'm like, bitch, I'm smoking poison. Of course my body's dying. She's like, all right, calm down here, we're not going to call the ambulance. But that's what happened to me. And I realized that, like, everything that I do to other people, and I still get mad. I'm still human. I still have these things. Yeah. But I have just totally changed my perspective on when I'm interacting with people. I realize, fuck, this is just a mirror of me. This is just an extension
another
of me.
Version of you living a different.
Exactly. It's me living a different experience. And I was like, oh God, everything is connected. They're all one. So it really calmed me down, like road rage, things like this. I was like, you know what? Doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah. No, and see, I think I've heard that many times, and like all these Gnostic texts and everything that's kind of been hidden forever. I was raised Catholic, and I read the Bible many times, and now I don't know if you know anything about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, I sure do.
Do you know about John Marco Allegro and the book he had? He was like an ordained minister, I think, for the Christian church. I'm not 100%, and this is in the 70s, and he was one of the translators. And he was saying Jesus, his real name was Yeshua,
right.
That he was a shaman, giving, just doing stuff that, like...
All those Gnostic texts that got pulled from the canon, they're so powerful. They tell so much stuff about who we truly are.
Yes.
Well, then even like, there are some like channeled works out there as well. The Urantia book is basically the history of Earth.
Okay.
And
I haven't heard of that.
It's a crazy read, man. And but basically they say that Jesus, he came down and like he was a mystic, and all the stuff that we talked about that we credit to him as a religion, he never wanted a religion. Yeah. That was Paul, and Paul goes, "What you have all these like these things that we have to do, these do's and these don'ts," but his was like, no man, just like treat everyone fairly and freely and all this stuff, like beautiful way. But yeah, it's a really interesting book.
And I love that because a lot of his teachings were to remind us who we are, that we're divine beings that never die.
Yeah. And
we only have the limits that we perceive, that we think we have. That's why I was saying it's important who's around you, because I think the Essenes were a faction of the Jews that lived up in those mountains where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah. And supposedly they were trying to reverse engineer humanity back to what they used to be thousands of years ago, meaning you lived to 100 or 300.
Right.
And a lot of it was, I think they ate once a day. They did intermittent, or they fasted. They didn't eat on Sundays. They did a lot of intermittent fasting. They drank raw milk, eggs, and then vegetables, kind of like Native Americans, And of course, they were slaughtered by the Romans. The instant the Romans saw how powerful and what they knew.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting as well is, I don't know how much you've gone into this when you talk to have you ever studied like Bill Donahue and stuff like that? No. So Bill Donahue goes back into the ancient records, and he follows it all the way back to like the Sumerians and stuff like that. And he's like, shit. He's like, I think we were seeded by extraterrestrials.
Wow.
He's like, we talk about these giants, we talk about these all these things they had, like the sons of God came down, they mingled with women. He's like, I think the Bible is telling us that they mixed their DNA with us, and that's how come they lived for so long. And then they and so when you sort of like, if you study Bashar, he talks about like the Anunnaki, that they came down here and that's what they did. They meddled with DNA, and I'm like, what is actually real? There's so much out there.
You know what? And I think it's complicated because
it's all real.
Well,
portions of it,
Yeah. Well, I think, things are just beginning to come out, and we're all the more we awake, the more we realize what we are, and we start being of service of others, then we're changing timelines.
Yeah.
You know, there's low timelines, there's high timelines, and every single time one person starts realizing, you know what, I don't want to work no more. You know, I want to, you know, pour ayahuasca, open a healing center. Have you heard of scalar waves and those scalar frequencies?
I have not.
So this is a technology that's existed, I think, since like World War II, and a lot of like the CIA and the FBI would use it against you. So if you had like a little cancer cell or a tumor or something, it would amplify it. Right?
Oh, interesting.
And same thing with your car. You know, they could find a little weakness in it, and you can't see these, you know, visible scalar waves. But now they're using them to heal people.
Oh, interesting.
And I think there's a place in Rancho Cordova, and there's a place that just opened over here in Chico, and they're going to be on the show too. So I'm excited to talk.
Hell yeah! You know, it's interesting. There's so my wife, she's a nurse, and she's up there in Oroville Hospital, and there's this traveling doctor, and they just got approval from the FDA, and they were looking for facilities, and Oroville was one of them. That was like, yeah, come on over, we'll try this. I mean, nothing. What's happening in Oroville? Literally, people are flying from all over the world. Portugal. She was working with a lady from Wales, and just all these different things. And what the FDA had given is that these are individuals who have cancer in their body elsewhere, and it's metastasized to their liver. And what happens is they will come and they will shoot sound waves. I don't know if it's the same thing.
I think so. Yeah.
And so this doctor is like,
it's a frequency.
it's a frequency. So he'll go in there, and he's this young dude. Like he's like barely 30 years old, and he is knocking the tumor right, just obliterating it completely. But the FDA has only approved it on livers because livers is a small enough thing that it's not going to affect the entire system and all this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's knocking it out completely. They won't say it's curing cancer, but it is eradicating it from that organ. And and it's a procedure that they pay only cash for because insurance won't cover it. So the people are flying, because they're on their deathbed anyway. They're given months to live. So they're flying like from Portugal and whatever, coming over here, paying $75,000 cash, mortgaging their house, cashing out their retirement, whatever they can. And this dude's like, boom, boom, zapping this shit. So, I mean, I wonder if that's the same thing.
I mean, I think it's kind of like in the similar theme.
Yeah.
I mean, in the similar category.
But it's so out of reach for so many people. Like, who has?
Well, and it's not expensive. No, it's not expensive. The scalar frequency is not that expensive. I think in like 3 days they've gotten rid of tumors and like whatever aches or ailments.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, I had a friend who had stage 4 breast cancer that just passed away January 5th.
I'm so sorry, man.
And she was the one that was going to do the reverse. I signed her up in November and it didn't, you know, and I was just thinking, because, you know, once it really takes over and you've given up.
If you've given up, you're done, yeah.
Yeah, and she was there, but she was very open-minded and wanted to do it, but she just kept.
How old was she?
40.
So young.
40, I know. And she was fighting. She was fighting to stay alive, and I just found out, like, literally, I think last week, her mom was like, oh, she passed away on the 5th, and I was like, fuck.
I'm very sorry, man.
And, but she, you know, I was hoping I could do the hypnotherapy for her, and then her higher self would tell her what to do.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, that's the thing with cancer is once they tell you have it, you just...
If you believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what's that, the placebo effect, right? And I think that's a sad thing, because a lot of people just do what the doctors say, you know, and I see, like, my ex-girlfriend, too, the same thing. Her dad was diagnosed with cancer literally in, like, months. He just fucking fell apart, you know.
That's the thing. So, I don't want to discount the work that I do in the healing sector with women. I don't want to break it down to that it's just a placebo. However, there is a lot of belief that has to go into it, and I just give them permission slips to believe that I can actually do this because they see testimonials. I do certain things with them that they've never done before, that they feel differently. So all of that helps to the fact, but in the end, it's the mind. It's the mind over matter there. They're believing that this is what's going to do the work for them.
And you know what? And I think that's why a lot of us are here, you know, because I was told too, you're here to help people assimilate. And I've always been that kind of person that I was always I was always up and down, because you know, sometimes you just get fed up because you go, why don't people get it? Why don't people want to work out? Why don't people want to eat? I mean, don't get me wrong, I eat shit too. You know, I especially where I work right now. No, there's so much food, and you know, I was like doing real good for some time, but then there's just too much food around me.
It's so funny you say that because like we're in Death Valley, and I'm like, I'm off grid, so I can't track my macros. I'm like, fuck it, let's just eat whatever the fuck we want. And I'm like, I ate like shit. I mean, I had great steak. I had like, you know, Cheetos and like gummy bears and all this other shit. And so, in fact, today, right now, I'm fasting. I'm just drinking water today because.
And September was the last time I fasted. And was it September? It might have been July because I did a psilocybin after 3 days of fasting, and I can't even.
Oh, dude.
It was a full moon. We were in Santa Cruz, and all I remember was don't get overwhelmed. And there was these crazy downloads, like light language that I did not understand. Yeah. It was coming in, and I was like,
well, you were so clean because you just purged yourself of all the impurities, man.
Yeah, but I know I have to like cut so much shit out. But I'd say next week.
Oh right, yeah,
next weekend. But I am, you know, I need to cleanse myself.
One at a time, man. Just pick one, do it, and then you're on the next one, and then the next one. You don't have to do it all at once.
So, did you get your Akashic record read?
No, this just happened last night, Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you mine.
No, on Tuesday, like 2 nights ago.
So the first thing she told me was like, you want to know about your reptilian life, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if you know anything about all these different star seeds and.
You got the praying mantis, the reptilians, you got the grays, you got the blues, yeah, all of those.
The Lyrans, you know what the Lyrans are?
The Lyrans I haven't heard about. There's also the Lemurians, and there's the Palladians. I mean, there's all these different ones.
So the Lyrans supposedly are like the first, like experiment, but they were like lions. They were like cheetahs, jaguars, and they would walk bipedal like us. And supposedly they were like the first fifth dimensional beings that were like Native Americans that communicated with everything, understood that everything had life, had these crazy. Have you ever heard of Lemuria?
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Shasta, man.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just finding all this out. So supposedly they got attacked by the Dracos. Their planet got destroyed. They fled. You know, millions and millions of years ago. And maybe even a different dimension. I don't, you know, it's hard to, you can't.
That's what they say. So there's a guy that goes into a portal up in Shasta, and he's like, it feels like you're walking into the mountain, but he's like, I think it's a portal that goes into a different dimension because it's a whole, like all of the Lemurians are there.
I know. Well, I don't know. I'm going to go up there and check it out, but yeah, this is
I'm doing a Bufo retreat on the spring solstice on March 21st through the 23rd up on Shasta Mountain.
Yeah. By yourself, or you're going with a group?
With a group, yeah.
Okay.
So there's the lady who taught me how to facilitate. She's doing it. She's running the retreat with another guy, but she's like, we need someone up there to do some sexual healing because she's like, last time we did it, there was a lot of women that had like shit come up that we didn't know how to handle. So she's like, will you come join us? I'm like, fuck yeah.
And so supposedly the Lyrians were the ones that started Lemuria, right? And then supposedly they got the continent sunk, and some of them went to Shasta, right? And I've heard different stories that there's an inner Earth, which really isn't an inner Earth. It's like a different dimension.
Yeah.
What's it called?
The Hollow Earth theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agatha, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So I mean, there's so many things, and to me, I just love all this. Well, I love all this because it's like life isn't just about working and upgrading your house and materialistic bullshit, you know.
So there's these overlords that want to control humanity, and that's what they want you to do. Is the whole thing, like go to school, get a job, and work until you retire. I mean, it's the same thing. So if we can distract you with that, you're not going to see the bigger picture of what's out here, of the humongous universe and its expansiveness and your ability to create and be a part of that.
I know, it's on purpose. It's on purpose to believe that, we're not good enough. Like you said, you have to follow all these rules and fit inside this little box and do what you're told. And a lot of people, unfortunately, do it.
Well, unfortunately, so when I went through NLP training, or neuro-linguistic programming training, there was this really, really fascinating training that I went through as part of it. So I went through like regular called practitioner, and then there was a master practitioner, and then there was a trainer, and I went through all of those. But during the master practitioner course, we went into something that they called levels, and they're levels of consciousness. And it was by this guy named Dr. Gray. I can't remember his whole name, but he had this massive book, and I bought the book. And I started reading it, and I'm like, this is crazy. But what he talks about levels of consciousness, and he says like, like level 1 is just kind of like, and it's for humans. Like you're just kind of like, you're like a hobbit, you're a lone wolf, you're all by yourself. Level 2 is like, you're kind of like a tribesman, like your community in the tribe, like you that. Then he goes into like level 3 is like a Rambo, like you don't care, you just fucking just like destroy whatever. You get angry and you're just gonna take it like a toddler would do. And then he goes into level 4, and he says level 4 is kind of where we're at right now in society. He's like level 4 is very much rule driven. You don't break the rules. So you have governments, you have cities, you even have families, you have schools, you have religion. Everything is done by the book. And he says, this is meant to control. And then you have the 5th level of thinking, which is more entrepreneurial. Like, you know what? Rules are meant to be broken, and I'm going to break them, but I'm going to do it ethically, and I'm going to do it to basically advance myself. And then level 6 is your hippies. Like, oh my God, entrepreneurialism is terrible. We're just going to be loving and free loving and give away. And Dr. Gray eventually said that we want to get to society, we want to get to a level 7, which means that you have the ingenuity to make money and to support yourself and others, but because you also have that hippie mentality where you want to be able to give freely. Come on, like the Burners. Burners' philosophy is to be so radically independent that you can also radically share as well.
Yes.
And it's like this level of enlightenment, like I'm so radically self-sufficient and I'm like a hardcore flex, but I'm going to give this to you for free because I don't want your money because I'm independently wealthy.
Yeah.
And what you think about society though is like it's meant by, we're stuck in this level 4 mentality of like it has to be done this way. These are the books, these are the rules, these are the things, this is the right way. And you get people that become very religious about that. And that's where you have your divisions, is because now you're breaking the rules. Like you shouldn't be doing that.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
That's true, but like you were saying, I didn't. It's not that I didn't believe. I just didn't know any of these things, and now they're just. Honestly, a lot of it was just like popping up, like out of nowhere. Just interesting conversations, stuff that I never heard about, and I just kept listening and having an open mind. And some of it made sense, and then other stuff you could see is kind of forced and used to kind of manipulate you,
Yeah.
And you can tell people who really want to cause expansion and people to grow, And to me, it's just exciting because before people were afraid to talk about entities, ghosts, whatever.
Oh, it's everywhere now, man.
And
this whole podcast series on that stuff, man.
Yeah, and it's exciting because all these people are collaborating, all these people are helping one another, and
well, here's a crazy thing to think about too. So let's say that ghosts really don't exist, but if you think that they do, you're going to create it.
Yeah.
You're going to create evidences towards it. And so I'm not saying they do or they don't, but if you have enough people collectively behind it, then you're going to manifest things that are going to say like, see, this is it. And the beautiful thing about that though is that works towards the negative as much as it does towards the positive. You get enough people together believing like, hey, we're going to change this, like the area, like the age of Aquarius, like we're going to bring all of this light and this love to the world. Yeah, you can actually change that.
Yeah. No, and it's true. We're all creating our own reality, right? Even if we believe it or we don't, right? And when you're unconscious, you're creating that negativity, that spiral down, the kind of stuck, and the whole system is set up for you to just be a clog, not to be independent.
Right.
And I've always been a huge proponent of cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Just because I know it's freedom. It's real freedom. And there's this guy called Sean Clayton. He's African American, and he talks about how AI, AI is here, it's not going nowhere, and it's all varies on who programs it, right? So there's going to be different AIs that are actually tools, and then there's going to be AIs that are kind of going to become people's gods because they're going to depend on it and ask it for everything, right?
Totally.
And people are already addicted to social media, addicted to video games.
Yeah.
And I get it, and you lose your self-confidence. You don't know how to interact with people, how to socialize with people.
Dude, it's so funny, man. Like some of these people that I'll meet online, really quick-witted, really funny, and then meet them in person, I'm like, hey, what's up, man? It's like, oh, hey, very introverted, like doesn't want to talk. And I'm just like, but not everyone's like that. But some people are just like that. You know, it's weird.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of, and I think COVID as well has forced a lot of people to be afraid and not to come out, and you know, and I hope these conversations just get to people, and that's why, you know, I focus Northern California because it's kind of rural. You know, yeah, you have the big cities, but I want to focus on where like no one's at, or even like the mountains. It doesn't really matter, you know. It doesn't matter.
We're making shit happen here, man.
No, it is, and I'm just excited with everything that's going on. But we keep, you know, forgetting about the Akashic records. So
Yeah.
So I had an experience on my first psilocybin. I don't know if it was my first or my second one, and it immediately told me, "This is not who you are."
Oh wow.
And it like said my real name. And at first I was like, you know, I'm not questioning who am I talking to. I'm just doing whatever it's telling me, right? So it tells me get into a meditative state or in a lotus position, you know.
Yeah.
And then it starts telling me, because, you know, I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan and Aubrey Marcus. You know who Aubrey
Joe,
Marcus
I do,
is?
not Aubrey Marcus.
So Aubrey Marcus is kind of like Joe's friend. You know who On It, the supplement company, is?
Yeah.
So they both started it together. And he sold it for like 180 mil or something.
Supplemental, like it's so.
And he's very spiritual and was like kind of trying to start his own Burning Man. I think something called Arcadia. It was like a festival. Did you ever hear that? I don't think it worked. He put in millions of dollars in it.
Sucks.
Yeah, and but he was. I think he's on like every psychedelic that you could think of. From what's the snuff called that you blow up your nose? Wachuma? No, is that?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
That shit burns.
You've done it?
No, my friend did. So I had an opportunity to do it, and I'm like, fuck it, I haven't put anything in my nose. I did coke. I did coke a few times, and it destroyed my stamina, and I'm like, never again.
What did?
Coke.
Oh, well, but that's kind of a little more.
It's like synthetic and all that. Yeah, this is Wachuma. So he did it. He said it went in one, and then they did the other one immediately. And so they blew it in for him, both people. And he said it was like his brain was on fire, and then it stopped. But he said he's like, I'm like, would you do it again? He's like, fuck no. So that's all I needed to know, that he would never do it again. I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna try that then. You know.
So it started telling me, you know, this is not who you are.
Yeah.
Told me my real name, which I don't remember, and so I was kind of having a hard time because I was like, or no, it told me, what took you so long to get here? We've been waiting for you. Like, why did it take so long? And I was like, I don't know who's talking to me, but I'm just listening the whole time. And then I think at one point, like I looked in the mirror and I seen this like green bluish being, like geometrical, you know. I wasn't sure if it was but I had two little horns, and it didn't freak me out because I've heard of people turning into dragons and all this stuff, right? And I was just like, I don't know what's going on, you know. But I mean, I just loved the experience, and I think the day after I kind of forgot everything, because, you know, when the stuff wears off, you kind of go back to baseline, and I felt like every cell in my body was like energized. Like I just felt like I can do whatever I want.
It's interesting that you actually looked in the mirror. So I've done Bufo in the mirror. Whole new experience. I've heard some people are afraid to see themselves when they look in the mirror. I don't want to take away from your story, but like I've done that shit, and like completely different experience. Like,
what did you look like in the mirror? Do you know?
I do, yeah. So Bufo is not a psychedelic, first off, and so this is the craziest thing. So when I looked in the mirror, it's at my friend's house, and we were doing a ceremony with a couple other people, and I'm like, I'm gonna go face my demons, and so I go over to the mirror, and she's a huge wall mirror, and I literally like look at myself. I'm like, I'm here. Go ahead and show me. And then all of a sudden, my eyes pop out, and I have 4 eyes. And then my face like starts to like twist around in circles and becomes all like deformed. And I'm just like looking at myself. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. That's interesting. And then I put my head into the mirror, so like my forehead was on the mirror, and then my eyes converged, and then I saw this one big huge like black pupil, and it just absorbed me and like swallowed me. And I go into this thing, and it was not so much showing me of who I am, but it downloaded stuff about what I'm doing and why it's working. And so not so much like it's more like who I am as a being and as a transmuter of energy, but it was like, holy shit, like it just showed me everything about the work that I'm doing when it comes to sexual healing. But it was the weirdest thing in the world, because looking in the mirror, like I had this like little pit in my stomach. I'm like, do I really want to do this? Because I was kind of like not scared, but like I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like what I see, you know. And so I went and I did it, and like I said, but like the eyes popped out and they started like just face was all distorted, stuff like that. Oh, have you ever seen the movie Smile?
No.
Oh God! So have you seen the preview for it?
Mm-mm.
So it's this this person's constantly smiling when she's about to see people that are gonna like hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mirror had this huge ass smile, like literally like going from like ear to ear, like eye to eye, and I just was like, oh my God, I'm like this guy can smile. But it was weird though, because like I had to really just face the mirror. So I'm super excited that you did that. And yours was way more, descriptive and excited than mine was.
Well, you know what? I was gonna do, what's it called? Because there's 2 different ayahuascas, I believe, that have the DMT in it.
Yeah.
Is it acacia and mimosa?
Mm-hmm.
So I know they're both trees.
Yeah.
I know acacia comes from Egypt, and I think mimosa comes from South America or something.
And they also now are grafted in Hawaii, because they've been traveling so much that they have it in Hawaii now.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. So
I've been trying to get a hold of some roots, because my friends want me to brew some, and I'm like, I just gotta get a hold of it.
Of what?
The roots.
Syrian. Do you know what Syrian roux is?
Mm-hmm.
That's an MAO inhibitor, right? That helps it work.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm getting called in that direction too. So there's 2 shamans. I think they're in Elk Grove. They just came back from South America. They were both out there since October, November, December.
Are they having ceremonies?
Yeah. I don't know about yet, just because they just got back and they were down there for like 3 months. You know.
The reason I asked is because there's a guy in San Rafael who does them, and he calls it congregation, and he does a lot of people that I want to introduce it to can't do overnight.
And they don't call themselves shamans either. They call them facilitators.
Or just whatever. They serve it.
Yeah.
We were going to go do it, and then this guy got called to Sedona. He's like, I'm sorry guys, I gotta go to Sedona. This is my teacher who taught me, and I'm gonna help him. So he's not doing it now. But I like the idea that he was doing. Once a month these congregations where people could come during the daytime and do like a micro on Aya. Mm-hmm. And it was over in the Bay, and you could drive over there. You could spend from 4 or 5 hours in the medicine, and then come back and not be totally too deep into it, which I thought was a great introduction to people. But like I said, he moved to Sedona, and so I was like, shoot, I lost that connection. Yeah,
there's so many people now, and I love it that they're more and more people. You still got to be careful, because you can still go to jail for things of that nature. And
it's interesting. So I've had ceremonies in my house, in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
My neighbor works for the sheriff's department, and she was over the fence filming everything.
What?
Yeah, totally. I went over and talked to her. She's like, "Get the fuck off my property, you and your psychopath." And I've done it a few times. I've done my private ceremony. I've done another ceremony with a group of people. And the last one I had a woman who, and I know this about her because I'd worked with her privately in separately from this. But I invited her because she wanted to experience it. And she channels, and she's loud, and she screams, and she cries. And so she was very much in that energy. And I think that was what did it for my neighbor to just what the fuck is going on over there? So I let them know. I said, hey, I'm Native American, which I am, believe it or not. And so I said, hey, I'm Native American, and we're having a healing circle over here. So some people are just letting go of some trauma. So you may hear some screaming. Don't get mad at our battle cries if someone's going crazy. This is what's happening. And so she's like, bullshit. And so she calls the sheriff on me, and I'm like, the sheriff. What are they going to do?
That evening?
No, because so that was one of the things that kind of got to her. But I have my kids were on the roof, and they're running back and forth, and they're playing and stuff like that. She's like, "Get your fucking kids off the roof before they fucking die! I'm gonna call the fucking police!" And so I was like, "Fuck you, bitch!" know, like we're going back and forth. So she calls the sheriff over, and this is when I found out the sheriff already knows about me. They have their own fillers on all of these 530 groups, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know who you are. We know what you're doing." And I'm like, "Really? What am I doing?" She's like, "Don't worry, you're not in trouble. The deputies in the office think you're fucking genius because you're doing all these boob readings and you're getting all these women to send you their tits. They all love you." And I'm like, "That's really interesting that you guys follow that much about me and stuff like that." But anyway, the fact is that she has video, she can't see what we're doing. So she sees that people are taking something with a pipe, but she doesn't know what it is. And it's one of those vapes that it could be weed, it could be anything. And so the cops are like, what do you want us to do with this? The guy's in his backyard, and people are around a circle. And I showed the cops the circle because we had a fire pit and all this stuff. And she's like, "Yeah, this is nice. I don't fucking care, you know? No one's dying over here."
I love that. You know, that's great news, Ryan. That's really great news because, I just always worry, and maybe it's like a past life because like she told me when I got my Akashic, she's like, the first thing she told me is like, "You want to know about your reptilian life, right?" And I go, "I do." And she's like, "Yeah, well, you have lived a lot of lives in Orion."
Oh,
and
yeah.
And she told me the exact planets. And she's like, "So there's an observatory over in off of 50. It's an extension of Sierra College. What's that? Cameron Park?
That's over there, yeah.
Is that so? Yeah, there's
Cameron Park, yeah. Cameron Park, it's up 50 up the El Dorado Hills up there.
Yes.
That would make more sense. It's less light pollution.
They have an observatory.
Do they really?
Yes, and anyone can go like tomorrow and Saturday.
What?
Yes. And she told me, look for these planets, and you're
because Saturday what's happening is a whole parade of planets.
Yes.
Like once a lifetime.
Well,
right?
Supposedly, can you see it without nothing because the moon?
You can, yeah. You'll see everything except for Neptune and Uranus. You'll need to have a telescope, but everything else is naked eye.
Yeah. That's supposed to cause like a lot of positive effects for people who want to manifest and like bring this year into a reality. You know. Yeah. And she was telling me, you know, I mean, I don't know, I've never heard of those planets in my life. And she's like, yeah, once you look at it, you're
Orion?
Well, Orion is...
he's the hunter, that's his belt.
Yeah, it's a bunch of planets. There's like thousands.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people say Orion is like Star Wars. But there's so many different races and everything. And then finally she's like, well... I could look at your aura and you're like purple, kind of like rainbow aura, and you're a dragon.
Like,
what? What do you mean? She's like, yeah, you're a white dragon. That's who you're. And I was like, I mean, I've never had any like thoughts or anything like that, but it makes sense when I seen Quetzalcoatl in one of my.
Oh, did you really?
I didn't even know what it was.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea what it was,
yeah.
Right? All I knew was it was so big in my peripheral that it just looked like a giant, huge snake. And I was like, I guess I'm going to have a bad trip, because you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
And so I just saw these coils, right? And you could see the scales. And then eventually, and he was like light gray, kind of white, had the feathers and the wings and stuff, and he just kind of flew into me, and the trip started, and you know what? They've been like very magical experiences where it's super alien. I don't know what's going on. I can't explain it, but they're very familiar. Like I know this but I don't understand it, because I'm a human and I've been living a human life, and now I realize that I'm not human, and I think this might be my only incarnation. As a human being, and
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I want to. This woman's name is Jenny. So my wife is gonna put me in touch with her.
Is she in Sacramento?
No, she's in Grass Valley.
I'm trying to think who I'm talking to because I have.
So I'm gonna get mine done and be like, whatever. Be so cool.
Yeah. Just ask for your like past lives and. It's funny how like the person that I talked to was in Sacramento, and she was just kind of talking a lot about galactic history and how people are afraid of being reptilians because they're considered negative and not all of them.
Hostile,
And so a lot of people are afraid to like show who they are because they think it's a negative aspect. And I guess there's also like a Mayan civilization somewhere in Orion that I've lived a lot of lives there. And they just told me like, oh, it told me to wear obsidian crystals. Because I was getting some real bad trips with some.
That'll ground you. Obsidian will ground you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you clean yours, or how do you charge yours?
The full moon.
That's it.
Yep.
You know,
put them outside overnight.
Okay.
Yep. Or I guess you can wash them in a river too.
And you know, I never believed in empathy, right? Or that I was an empath, but now it makes sense because I used to get this anxiety and this fear from the people I work, and it wasn't me, right? It wasn't because I was like, where is this coming from? Like
the fact that you have NorCal podcast speaks to your empathetic nature, that you want to share this with the world. Like it's you're feeling something so good that you want to share it with others as well.
Well, I just honestly, I mean, the whole reason behind the podcast was starting the business with my folks. It was a struggle, and I always wished somebody would kind of help or boost us up, you know?
Yeah.
And I just want to do that because I know there's a lot of people out there, like farmers and whatnot, who are doing all the work but don't have any website, don't use social media.
Yeah.
And this is an infomercial, but a real one because you're being transparent. You're talking about your experiences, and you don't know who's going to come across it, you know?
No, not at all.
And I think you just need to plant seeds, right, and see what might grow. And I think now the possibilities are endless, and people are really open now. Of course, you're always going to have people that are going to say you're crazy.
Oh, and that's okay.
And I don't care no more. You know, I really don't. I don't.
Because this is what I learned. Like, you know, it's a whole saying. Like, you know, whenever you point a finger, you have three pointing back at you. It's like, you know, if I'm going to accuse somebody of being like a dirty, rotten scoundrel, then I'm like, well, shit, you know, I was a dirty, rotten scoundrel this time, and this time, and this time. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like I'm my own worst critic. So like, it literally, like, it's a projection of who I am, which is why I love people.
Yeah,
I love everybody. They're beautiful. They're intelligent. They're super smart.
No,
I'm beautiful and intelligent and super smart.
No, and it's true because whatever you put out, you get back, right?
Yeah.
So if all you're wishing is, you know,
success
even if someone,
and love and everything.
yeah, and if someone cuts you off, hey, I hope that person gets home safely and okay, right? And it's happened to me so many times where like miracles, like little mini miracles or things are always happening, and I go, you know what? I'm on my path now, and I believe in myself now more than ever, and I just want to continue this, and I don't want to work for no one. I want to do my own thing, you know, and go down and I feel this is a year, you know, we've talked about it, about helping you with yours and doing mine, and I have my coworker too, who's, what is she? She's Mexican and Filipina, and she's just super talented, and you know, and she's always been the model. I'm weird, you know, I believe in aliens. I'm like, dude, you're not weird.
Join the party.
I know. I'm like, it was meant for us to meet, you know, because she's very empathetic, you know. Oh, so the reason that I found out I was empathetic, or what's it called? Empath. Am I saying it? Empath?
Yeah.
Right, you're absorbing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're absorbing people's energies.
Yep.
And I didn't know how to get rid of it, and so the shaman did a ceremony to see what was wrong with me. And he started, I'm not going to say exactly some of the things he told me, but he was telling me something, do you eat a lot of bacon? Because I seen like an alligator kind of entity, and that's usually related to parasites. And I was like, no, I don't. I have a coworker.
Oh.
Who's like on a carnivore diet, right?
Straight up bacon, huh?
And I was like, is that why, you know? And I was just like, do you eat a lot of seafood? I'm like, no. He's like, well, just let me know what resonates with you. And there's this one guy that used to work with me who got fired because, I don't know, he was texting like a 13-year-old or something like that. And something similar, he asked me if I like, you know, girls. And this is before I even knew anything about him.
Interesting. So you were absorbing all that energy.
Dude. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't, you know. But he was telling me, you know what? You're gifted, right? You have visions. And he knew about the things that I was seeing. And I don't think highly of myself or anything of that nature. But this has been calling me for some time. Because even before psilocybin, I started studying, the shamanic ways of like a rattle and a drum, right? And getting into a theta state just with beating and drumming. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And it's...
I bought myself a whole, like, I have a couple Buffalo drums.
Oh, really?
Yo, dude, when I'm doing it's interesting because, like, the drums because Bufo is an energetic medicine. It moves blocks of energy. And if you can loosen the energy up with the drums, dude, like, they have these big drums, like, boom, boom, boom. It just basically,
so you could feel people's energy?
Oh, God,
and you're on, like, a microdose and they're on a bigger dose? Or how does that kind of work?
I sometimes go full dose.
What's a full dose?
I do a full send. Like, I'll do, so for me, I'll be anywhere between 30 and 40 micrograms.
Okay, and you smoke that?
Yes.
And then they do the same thing, and then you can kind of sense what's like...
So when I first figured this out, like, I had no idea. And so it was the second ceremony that I had at my house, and we were done. Everyone was leaving, and then there was this Russian woman, and she's like, I've never gone into the medicine too deep. I've always been afraid to do it. And there was the person who was facilitating, and then 3 other facilitators who had come to help assist in this thing. And so I'm just watching. This is my house. I'm just like happy, and this is a great experience. Everyone had a great time. And this woman goes into medicine, and she's in the backyard, and she's on the grass, and she's not moving. And this other woman facilitator, she comes up to me. She's like, "Hey," and her husband comes up, and we're like in a huddle, and I just thought that she's like conferring with me because like it's my house. She's like, "Hey, this woman, she has some stuck energy. Someone needs to go into the medicine and help her move the energy." And I'm like, "Cool, that's fantastic. Yeah, go ahead." And she goes, "No, it's you." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, I can't. This is not what I do. This is my house, but I don't know anything about this medicine other than that this is my second time experiencing it with you guys. I don't know anything about this. She's like, "No, the medicine is telling us that it's you. You need to do this. She has some sexual block stuck." And I'm like, "What do you want me to do? Like, smoke and like go touch her? Like, I'm not gonna do this." And the guy goes, "No, bro." He's like, "Take this hit and take this drum and follow your intuition. It'll lead you in what you need to do." And I'm like, I have nothing to lose here. So I take the most like massive hit I've ever had, and I'm like going white, and like my legs are starting to shake. I'm like, "Oh shit, like, I think I need to sit down here." And he comes up to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "No." He's like, "You got this. Now here's the drum." And so I go over there, and immediately I start getting these downloads. I'm like, "Oh, I could feel in my body where she needed to have the beats." And so I just go over there. I'm like, "Dum, dum, dum."
Just you're kind of holding it over.
Holding over, and it's this big, huge buffalo drum. So I'm holding the handle here, and I could hit it, and like it just like perforates through her body, and I could feel where she needed it. I was like right in her over her abdomen area, and then but I was hitting it and like whooshing it, kind of like with the energy, and I was like, it was showing me like how to do this. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she goes, oh, and she starts having like a full-on orgasm. And I'm getting turned on, like I'm getting hard. I'm like, "Oh my god, like, what am I getting a boner here? Like, what's happening?" And then other facilitator, she comes down and she squats down and she's like putting her pussy in her face. She's like, oh yeah, like just doing this shit. I'm like, what the fuck is happening in my backyard? Meanwhile, I'm like trying to hide my heart on here. I'm like, okay, let's continue doing this stuff. And like, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I thought like, I'm like, fuck, I think I'm gonna like have myself an orgasm. And she just like climaxes, she comes and then she like releases herself and she's like, oh. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And so afterwards, we're all downloading. I'm like, what just happened? They're like, that's what Bufo does for people. I'm like, what the fuck is that? She's like, you just feel what they need and you just give it to them. Sometimes people need to rip off their clothes and run around naked. Sometimes they need you to go over there and like give them a gentle nudge to like do something, like roll over and like whatever it is, and to just move the energy. And I'm like, this was crazy. I'm like, I don't know what was happening, but I was feeling very aroused. And the woman goes, oh yeah. The one that like squatted down was like putting like her pussy in her face. She's like, oh yeah, I was feeling that too. She's like, I wanted her to feel my pussy energy, my pussy power. And I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And this lady, she's just like quiet little Russian woman. She's just like, it was really nice. But she's like, I've never experienced this in my life. I don't know what to say. I think I need to go to the bathroom. And I was like, holy shit. The crazy thing about this though is like afterwards, I had to like really think to myself, I'm like, how did I, and then the woman who gave me the medicine, she goes, Bufo was calling to you and it was telling you that this woman had a block and you were the person who has the most extensive and like experience moving energy through people sexually and not using it as something to like read into like, oh my God, she wants me kind of thing. She's like, you could control yourself. She's like, that's why it chose you. And then afterwards, I had done Bufo again, probably about a week later, because the person goes, I think you should become a facilitator. She's like, it called to you. And so I did it, and during the facilitation, it showed me, is like, the work that I do with women when I help them with orgasm therapy to release the trauma through orgasm is literally moving energy blocks. And it basically said, you are helping them to release the energy. The energy is being released through the orgasm. However, you yourself are the transmuter of that energy. You're taking the empath part. You're taking all of those feelings on and you're helping them to move it. Because I would feel it during the Bufo, like I was hitting the drum and I was moving it like this, and I was moving my body and I was kind of like gyrating with my hips a little bit to help her move it along. And then she had her experience, and it taught me, it showed me in this vision I had with Bufo afterwards, was like, this is who you always have been. You've always been this person that can take people's energy and help move it into a safer place for them. You just discovered the orgasm part to allow them to fully release everything. Bufo allows you to do that as well. And so I've combined the two. I actually have some really powerful sexual healing experiences with Bufo, like next level shit. But that's what happens, kind of like very similar to yours. It's like you've always been this person, but that's how that works for me.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense, because even on my my Akashic reading, the reader was telling me that the reason psilocybin worked with me so well is because I'm a fucking old soul, like old.
You were a lion, so lion's mane works for you.
Dragon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So.
Well, did you say one of the first? Oh no, you were saying one of the very first people were lions.
One of the the first create. Well, I mean, it's complicated, and I'm not. I think it's hard because there's parallel lives, there's other dimensions, and a lot of people say
and everything's happening simultaneously right now.
Yeah. All
time
past, present, and future.
Everything is right now. We think it's like time is linear. No, it's not, man. It's all around you.
And I know, and we're multi-dimensional beings,
Yep.
but we can't access that until we're kind of opening our heart chakra, right? And being of service of others, and then slowly we start remembering and we start creating. And I think, that's what a lot of us are here for, is to cause this ascension, to help humanity, because I think maybe humans are the ones that are kind of trapped in this, they call it the false matrix, right? Where, like you said, everyone's in survival mode. Everybody has polarity. And sometimes a lot of people, because there's duality in this third dimension, in this reality, right? Where there's dark and light, and you can't have one without the other.
They coexist.
So some people choose to just come here and suffer, meaning loss, but those are just, it helps everyone's soul, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone gets to ascend.
Sometimes it's a soul contract, like my soul I mean, I don't know what my personal soul contract is, but some people, like, their soul contract is like, hey, I came to do this to help you ascend to the next level. Like, talk about true love. To sacrifice your incarnated existence to help somebody else.
And we live multiple lives, so there's no right or wrong way. We have many lives to live.
It's funny because my wife, one of the things that we say is like, I love you for all of our lives. Because she's like, I think that we've always come together in every single lifetime we've had. I'm like, I don't know, let's get the Akashic Record to find out,
Yeah, it's exciting, man, to see you do any of that and all the work you're doing to help people. Because
thank you, man.
Even like before I did anything, when I was studying shamanism, she was saying, a lot of Native Americans have kind of lost their way and are so traumatized that they don't even remember their spirituality or the connection to source, right? And she said, if you're willing to pick up the tools, then you're ready to do it.